So if you had told me that being a game developer was going to be this challenging, I don't know if I would have became one. Today I wanted to make a different type of video than I typically make. I want to talk about the very real struggle that is being a husband, being a dad, and being a developer all at the same time. Juggling all three of those things, it's so easy for feelings like shame and guilt and inadequacies to be very present in your mind, and it's just a whirlwind of emotions. And it can often lead me to wonder if this is all worth it. If starting a game development studio is worth it. If game development is worth it. Is it worth that sacrifice of time? And I'm going to talk about that struggle today. So let's get into it. If you are married or in a long-term relationship, you know how much work and intentionality it takes to make that relationship work. It needs time, it needs effort, it needs intentionality. And when all those things click together, it creates something beautiful. But when you throw in a full-time job, kids, a side gig like game dev, it can become super difficult to put in the time and energy that it takes to create a relationship that works. I've been married now for 6 years, which is crazy to say because it just feels like it's so ingrained in part of my life that I don't know what life is like without it. It's amazing. But we're not newlyweds anymore, and we have a family and kids, and we're growing that together. And with all those things, I need to be diligent in prioritizing her, giving her my best time, and actively choosing to serve her, because I know that's what she's trying to do for me. She supports my game dev journey more than anyone else, and I am incredibly grateful for that. And I need to constantly remind myself and remember that in a relationship, each individual is responsible for supporting one another and being there for one another and lifting each other up. And because of this, I try to be so intentional about the time I spend working on games or YouTube or whatever it is versus the time that I spend with her. I want her to know that tier list of priorities, and that she is at the top of those priorities, and that my kids are at the top of those priorities, and that game development and this studio and YouTube takes a bottom seat to that. Which is crazy when you think about what the world tells us, you know? The world tells us to produce and hustle and grind and do all these things. You know, I made a video about making games faster, and a lot of people were like, no, you don't want to make game dev a grind, you know? I don't want it to be a grind. I try to make game dev as efficient as possible so that I can give time to the people that mean most to me. And what can make it challenging sometimes is her ability to understand that other things do take time. You know, my kids don't always understand that I need to make time for myself, but my wife can understand that. And so I need to be diligent in that understanding. And so that diligency looks like making time for her, very realistically. Like, make a chunk in my schedule for making time for her. And it doesn't always work out that way, but having that foundation is key in making that time for her. Because if I don't, I'm letting her down, I'm letting the kids down, and ultimately I'm letting myself down. Because when I do let myself down or them down, that is when those feelings of guilt and shame come in. And when I ask myself, is it worth it? Because it is a very real question. Is it worth giving up that time? And I need to make sure that it is worth it. It's so incredibly difficult, and I'm still learning it. And honestly, those feelings can be magnified when it comes to my kids. If you don't know my developer journey, you can go check out my 10 years of solo dev to get a full breakdown of it. But about 2 years ago, I got laid off from my full-time gig. That whole scenario led to my wife going back to work and me becoming a full-time dad. And really starting this studio on the side. So every day during the week, I'm a full-time dad. It is such a blessing to be able to raise my kids, and I feel like being a stay-at-home dad is not talked about enough because it is excruciatingly difficult sometimes. With 2 kids under the age of 4, there is always a lot happening, and there isn't always time to work on game dev or YouTube or the studio when I want to, and that's okay. I love game dev. I love everything about it. I love creating and building things with my brain, bringing it to life. It's so gratifying. And because of that, I can sneak little bits and pieces of it during the day. Either when there's downtime, a nap taking place, or just a moment of silence. I'll try to sneak in little bits and pieces of game development here and there. Or edit a video, or brainstorm some ideas for the studio. But this can become an issue when my boys suddenly need me for something. And I have to make a choice. Finish this thing I'm working on over here, this game development, this YouTube, this studio idea, or go and choose to be with them. I wish I could say that it's always an easy choice, that I stop right away and give all of my energy and attention to them, but I am human, and I don't always make that choice. It is so tough. I don't ever want to look back as my time as a dad and think to myself, I wish I had given them more of my time. I want them to always know how much they are loved, that they are more than anything. They're more than anything that has to do with game development, YouTube, or whatever. They're more important than everything. They're more important than it all. And I want that to be loud and clear for them. And it's actually my job as a dad to show them that. And I need to constantly remind myself of that. And it's insanely difficult to do that. But it's, because of those responsibilities of, showing them that love as a dad, that I set boundaries. I set boundaries for myself during the day that I don't work on game dev. Sometimes there's little jobs here and there of changing something or a little edit here and there. But like I said, I set a boundary for myself to not get too engrossed in my work. That time I've allotted for myself for game dev or whatever is set for the morning before they've woken up, or at night when they've gone to bed. That is the time to work on that stuff. Not while they're awake or when they need me. Being present as a father is such an important part of my role. And I hope my kids know that they are always the best part of my day. Even though I'm not perfect, they need to know that. And when I fail in that, again, that question of, is this worth it? becomes a very real question. I said that those feelings of guilt and shame are magnified with my kids. And those deep feelings of regret or guilt or shame, that is a 5-star restaurant quality recipe for burnout. So I need to be, like my wife, diligent about my time in setting a schedule and sticking to it. Because if I don't, there's a deep pit of despair waiting for me on the other side. So when it does come to my time dedicated as a game developer, I want to be able to work as my best self. That might sound counterproductive as to what I just said about giving my best self to my family, but it is still possible. I want to set myself up to give my work the best version of me when it is there. This is why I work to set reasonable boundaries and schedules for myself. The main chunk of my time developing comes in the morning and night, as I said, and like I also said, sprinkled throughout the day. It's not a normal 9-to-5 schedule, and there's a lot of variation because of the life that is built around it. I want to make something so abundantly clear, if I haven't already, that being a father and husband are the greatest gifts that life has given me, and I cherish them more than anything else in my life. But in order to give the best of myself to them, I need to make sure that I'm doing the work within myself. So what the heck does that have to do with game development and being a solo developer? Again, if you want a full synopsis of my solo dev journey, go check out that 10 years solo dev video. But I was a solo developer for very long. I was, almost 6 years as a solo developer. And for a long time, I tried to do everything by myself. And that weight was enormous. I was losing it because I couldn't do everything perfectly, basically. But then I found a team, and a lot of that weight and a lot of those anxieties went away because I had people to help me. And it was actually amazing having a team to support me. And I thought a lot of the struggles went away, but there was something still there. And that thing was to allow myself to be fully present in the work that I was doing. Honestly, I'm still working on how to do this well. I'm still trying to balance that time of work and do game dev, do YouTube, do the studio over time to relax. I really struggle with this. So if anybody has good advice on balancing those two things, I would love to hear it. Please leave a comment below because it is a very real struggle of mine. Because I feel like I had this enormous opportunity in front of me to make games and make YouTube videos and create this studio with my team. But when I choose to relax, I feel like I'm giving it away. When I don't choose to make that character controller, when I don't choose to finish that art piece, and I choose to play a game or sit on the couch or look at my phone instead, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm wasting all this time, I feel like I'm throwing it away. And it's just, that's where those feelings of guilt and shame come from, because I feel like someone else, given the opportunity that I have, would have created all these games by now. And I know that is like such a negative place to be because you're comparing yourself to others and you're comparing your journey to someone else's, but it's so hard to not think that. And what game dev allows me to do is fully express myself in a very unique way. And I need to be so careful because what can happen is I can allow my passion for game dev to become a burden. And that is, like I said, a recipe for burnout. If there was ever a recipe, that would be the recipe. And I just don't want that for myself. And so I come back to that question, if it's so hard to do this, is it worth doing? And what the heck? What is that? No, obviously it's worth it. I just need to try harder, Put your phone down, throw it across the room. The game can wait, you know, do the game dev dream, you know. But it's not always that easy, you know. It's so difficult sometimes. And maybe I'm just complaining. Maybe I'm complaining and I'm just being whiny about it. Maybe I am. Maybe no one else struggles with this. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but it's something that I struggle with. And I know that we all have our struggles, but it's really difficult sometimes. So like I said, if you have any advice on this, I'd love to hear it. I could go on and on about this subject. But I had a chance to talk to Matt Young a few weeks ago. You know, he made this game all by himself. It's going to come out in a few weeks, I think. Go check it out. There's going to be a link in the description. Super talented guy. And he talked about, when I was talking with him, he talked about finding your why. You know, why do you do this? If your why is to get famous and make money and do all of those things, you might struggle, you know? Is that why I'm struggling? Because I want to make money? I don't think so. I think it has to do more maybe about my psyche. But he talked about when your why is something more than just the physical, when it's something that is beyond you, that's when your why can lead you to do amazing things. And that really resonated with me, you know, because why I'm doing this, I hope, is to share more of myself with my kids, more of myself with my wife, to be more expressive about who I am, and to tell stories that might impact other people. When my why is not based on myself and based on others, I think that's what makes a huge difference in that process. You know, what helps ground me is maybe my why, maybe my schedule. Those things help bring my priorities into vision and help me process through that all. But what really helps ground me, and this is just me personally, is my faith. My faith helps me set my priorities, kind of resets my brain and helps me realize what truly matters. And that's what faith does for me. So I think, you know, for anyone out there struggling with myself, you know, find something that helps you prioritize things, helps you remember what truly matters, you know, because I think we all need something like that, something that helps us realize what's truly important. Again, I have so much that I want to say about this topic, so I think I'm going to make this video a 3-part series. This being the first one, the next one being what my day looks like, and then the last one being maybe how I find contentment in it all. If you're interested in, you know, videos and topics like that, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel, hit that like button as well, and leave a comment below talking about your own struggles, how you find contentment and how you prioritize your life, and, you know, your own struggles. Share them. The more we share about our struggles, that's when healing happens, you know? So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, hit that sub button, and thank you for allowing me to vent to you. Hopefully I'm not alone in this all. So yeah, thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you next time.